Hello and welcome to another edition of Lab Rats. My name is Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
And today, in the top of the show, I have three things to say. Number one, show topic is...
Multi-monitor configuration.
Oh, exciting. Oh, multi-monitor configuration.
People have asked about this before, so we're delivering on a long-standing promise. I promised I would do this.
Good.
We're going to do it.
You're a man of integrity. Number two, we are, as you can see, not in our usual set. We are on the left coast of Canada.
Yes, we are in Vancouver.
We're in Vancouver. And number three, I want to tell you about my favorite new podcast, besides Lab Rats.
There's another podcast?
Yeah, believe it or not. When you finish watching this podcast, you have our permission to go and download Abigail's X-rated teen diary.com.
Oh, that sounds a little bit dicey.
Sounds like it's dicey? No. But we'll show it to you, actually. Before we wrap the show, maybe we'll talk a little bit more about it. Don't you think? It's one of my... I'm so excited about it. It's fabulous.
He's obsessed.
I am obsessed.
He's obsessed with
I am
this.
obsessed with this new podcast. We'll tell you more about it a little later on in the show.
All
but
right.
first, a message from our sponsor.
That would be four things. You're telling us about this message now.
Well, the three things and then the message. The
Okay.
message from our sponsor. You know, they pay the bills after all. All right, we'll be back in a second. Stay where you are.
This is a llama. It carries luggage. This is a burrito. It is lunch. This is Camtasia Studio 4. It makes screencasts. Now answer our trivia question. What screencasting tool is not woolly or made of beans? I'll be back at the end of the show with the answer.
Want to get lint all over me?
Yeah, a little bit.
Hey, you got a big piece of lint on you, too.
Yeah, it's a big fuzzy piece of lint.
Who's this again? It's Kika, right?
This is my cat, Kika.
Kika, yeah.
She hasn't been liking being on camera too much, so I just threw her up under my shoulder. She started purring, and she's putting up with it so far. I don't know how long.
And what kind of cat is this? A parrot cat?
This is a parrot cat.
Arr, me hearties.
Arr,
Or parrot cat.
Yar.
All right. All right, so multi-monitor setups.
Mm-hmm.
So what's the, first of all, what's the point of doing a multi-monitor setup? I mean, is it just because you got an extra monitor?
Well, sure, that might be one reason why you'd want to do it, but there's a few reasons. So if you're one of the people out there that has a single monitor, and that's most people out there probably, you may find yourself occasionally with a web browser open, a word processor document, an Excel file, or whatever, just a bunch of stuff on the go. And when you want to go from one to the other, maybe, for example, as a writer, I used to have a word processing document and a browser open for doing some research, and I'd just be constantly moving things from one to the other, looking over here, typing it over here, that sort of thing. And I was just flipping back and forth,
driving you crazy.
back and forth, yeah.
Right.
And
so you would want more real estate space to play with more windows, right?
Yeah. So if you've only got one monitor, your solution is make the windows smaller, which is not really a good solution.
No, especially for older eyes, it's not a good deal.
Right.
Idea.
And you can get a bigger monitor.
Sure,
but
I mean, you get something like this, right?
You can get something like this, but even something like this is 40 inches.
Yeah.
And it's still only 1300 by 700, which is not a lot more space. I mean, it's just basically stretching everything out.
Pixels are bigger.
The pixels are bigger.
Not more real estate that much.
So it makes it better to see it from across the room, but it doesn't give you a lot more space to work with. So what you might want to do in this case is if you have a second monitor kicking around, you might want to just simply add a second monitor and have two workspaces to work with.
Right.
And this might also work, say you're a business and you have, you want to put up a display in the lobby and have a couple of different things running all the time. So you have videos working or showing off what your company does, or a little slideshow.
Right.
So there's a number of reasons why you might want to do this.
Now this is also a great way to expand your desktop, right? So you can, can't Windows set it up so you can drag from one monitor all the way over onto another monitor?
Yes, you can, and I'm going to show you how to do that.
Okay.
So that's one of the ways, just separate workspaces, or you can actually mirror them as well and have one working, or one showing off the same thing. So for example, at the lab with Leo Laporte, where I work, we do have mirroring on these guests' computers when they bring in their, I think she wants down.
Okay.
So when you bring in your notebook to be on the show, we want to see what you're doing in the control room so we can switch to your screen, but you have to do that through mirroring. your desktop.
Oh, I see. So you're working on. I mean, when I do a demo, I'm working off my laptop.
Right.
But you're also mirroring, pushing a copy out to the control room,
Right.
so they can record it for the show.
Exactly.
Right. Okay.
So and actually in LabRats, that's exactly what we do. I have my Mac underneath the desk,
Right.
and it's showing me what's going on that screen, but it's also pushing it back over here to the monitor. So when you're seeing picture time, that's what you're seeing.
Oh, right. So you're mirroring there with the Mac.
So we're mirroring it.
Okay.
But just as easily for the Mac or with Windows machines, you can set it up as 2 separate displays. So most notebooks have this by default. Now on a desktop computer, you have to have a computer video card that has 2 outputs. Now a lot of them do have that by default. No, they're not too specialty. A lot of the new video cards you'll get will have 2 by default. Sometimes you'll have a VGA and a DVI connector.
Right.
Sometimes you'll have 2 DVI connectors. Sometimes you'll have 2 VGAs if you've got an older machine.
Okay.
So if you only have 1 output on the back of your machine, so you've got maybe a budget machine that has the video built right onto the motherboard, you might not have that option.
Right.
But if you want to do this and you have that situation, you're going to go out and buy a video card, and we've talked about that in the past. So you'll get one with 2 outputs on the back of it. Right. And then you can do the mirroring, or you can actually do separate desktops.
The Expendo desktop.
Expendo Super Fantastic Double! And you know, Windows machines can actually handle, I think, up to about 10 different desktops. So if you have enough space in your machine for 5 video cards with dual outputs, you can actually set them all up. And this is definitely useful for a situation where you've got like a wall of video, for example.
Windows.
This is not exactly a typical consumer at home application for this technology, but you know what? It's possible.
It's kind of a geeky kind of application. It's just you do it because you can.
Yes, pretty much.
Wow. Okay. Cool.
But we're going to start out with just a single dual desktop configuration.
Okay. So this machine you're going to show us is a desktop computer. Windows XP's on it.
Yes.
And it has 1 video card with 2 outputs. Is that right?
1 video card, 2 outputs.
Could you put 2 video cards in?
You could put 2 video cards with 1 output each, or you can put 2 video cards, like I said, up to 5 if your computer will handle it.
Oh, cool. Okay.
Now, it's a little bit difficult in some of the newer machines that have PCI Express and only 2 slots. You can get 2 cards easily and then have 4. Very easily. A bit pricey maybe, but anyways, we'll start with this one basic configuration. You can do this on old machines that have the old PCI slot, the AGP slot, or the PCI Express.
Okay, good.
Very easily.
So what do we do?
All right, so the first thing you need to do when you're getting this set up is you need to go to a blank desktop, like we have here. So we've got 1 monitor set up over here, a very big monitor, as we mentioned before. So you right-click anywhere on that, and you go over to your properties. You have display properties here. You've got themes, desktop, screensaver, appearance, and settings. What you want to do is you want to go over to settings. Now this is where you change the size of your display as well. So if you want to stretch it out or make it smaller, depending on how much, how many pixels your display has, this is where you would do it.
Okay.
And you notice here you've got 1 and 2.
Yeah.
That stands for the number of outputs your computer has. So in this case, we have 2.
So if you go to this, you know, if these guys go to this on their machine and they see this and then they actually do, you don't even have to look for the output. That's just saying you do have 2 outputs on your card. Yes.
Oh, so cool. Now what we need to do is this 1 right here, the number 1, the primary display. That's the one we're currently connected to. And oops, clicking on that will give you a bunch of properties, which we don't really need to go to, but there you go. What you need to do is, if you have a second monitor hooked up, which we do over here, you would hook that up and hit the number 2, which is grayed out at the moment because it's not active. Okay. And go down to the bottom here and choose Extend my Windows desktop onto this monitor. Yeah. So what this is doing right now is essentially telling you, I want to use this monitor as part of my configuration. Okay. And then you can go down and click on Apply. And what it's doing now is it's like saying, oh, here we go. Let's just double check all the monitors in the configuration. And what we've got going on now over here is this other monitor has just kicked in. So it now has our desktop. And this other one that we were working on before still has the desktop. So now we have these 2 monitors. And you'll notice right now, if you drag this over, it'll show up on the other desktop.
Ooh, that's cool.
Now this isn't exactly an ideal configuration here because I have to drag this off to the right to get it onto this desk or this other monitor that's on the left. Okay. So what I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to go back to this control panel here that has the 2 displays. And first of all, if you're not sure which is which, It should be fairly easy to figure out, but if you're not sure, you can click on Identify, and it'll put up a big 1 and 2 or 3 and 4 and whatever, however many you have. It'll identify those monitors as to which your system thinks is which.
Okay.
Right, so we're going to go and move this, number 2, and just grab this and drag it over to the other side.
Oh, right. So okay, so you're saying this number 2 is to the left of number 1.
Right. So now when I drag this over to the other side, well, we have to hit apply first of all. And it'll say, okay, we're going to change the orientation of this. And now when I drag it over to this side, it'll show up over there.
Wow. That's cool.
And you can do that with almost any configuration. You can actually,
put it at the top.
you can, and this is when you have like up to your 10 monitors. You can say 9, set it up in a Brady Bunch style grid, so and put them all into the proper location here.
Wow.
So now we're gonna just to show you how we're gonna do that. Click and apply, and now when I drag down, it should appear over on that display.
Right.
Right.
Awesome.
And you can set this up in virtually any configuration here.
Right. That's so super fun.
That is pretty much
Wow.
what you need to do with this. And they said if you've got 4, you would just configure both of your cards in the same way. Hit identify, show which is which, rearrange them, and now you can actually span things from one monitor to the other.
I remember in the early days when Windows first got the capability, it may have been Windows 2nd edition, 98 2nd edition or ME, I can't remember which one. I read somewhere that it recommended identical video cards if you were going to do two-card configuration.
Yeah, that's,
is that still the case now?
It's still the case if you want to. You don't need to do identical, but at the very least what you should do is keep them within the same family. So you probably don't want to mix NVIDIA with ATI because those drivers will fight it out on your system.
Right.
So it probably does help to get NVIDIA and NVIDIA or ATI and ATI to make sure that the drivers are playing nicely with each other.
Right. Now what about something that's sort of a video adapter on your chipset in your motherboard and also a separate video card? Will that work?
That's a little bit of a different story. Yeah. Some it does, but in general, when you have something that's on your motherboard already and you put a video card into its expansion slot, so you'll have an AGP slot in there, a PCI Express slot, generally it'll disable the one that's on the motherboard. So if you get one with a single output, you can't generally use the one that's on your motherboard at the same time. So if you're going out shopping and you want to do double monitor and you're saying, I already have one on there, just make sure you're getting one with the dual output because it's probably going to disable the one that's on the motherboard.
Cool. Very good. Multi-monitor support on Windows XP. Now Vista had similar situation, I know. We looked at that configuration offline and the controls appear to be the same. What about the Mac?
The Mac is a bit different, and we'll show you a little bit of that after the break. One thing before we go there, I do want to mention you should keep it ATI and NVIDIA and NVIDIA, but what you can do within those families is mix up the types of cards. So if you do have AGP, you can put an extra one in through PCI as well, one of the older school types of
the
slots. Right. So you don't have to have them the same because in general you only have one AGP card slot on your system. PCI Express is a little bit different. You can actually have 2, maybe 3 or 4, depending on how new your motherboard is. So then you can just keep adding them in. But you can do one type of slot with the other, as long as you keep them within the same family.
Very great. Okay.
Right.
All right. Well, let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll talk a little bit about multi-monitor support on the Mac, and we'll talk a little bit more about Abigail's X-rated sexdiary.com podcast. All right. I'm looking
and some
forward to
viewer photographs too.
Oh yeah, good. Check it out.
Earlier in the show, we asked you what screencasting product is not woolly or made of beans. Is it A, a llama, B, a burrito, or C, Camtasia Studio 4? The answer is Camtasia Studio 4. Learn more at labrats.techsmith.com.
Okay, this is kind of ugly. What are you doing with the desktop here?
Saving everything I've ever done on the desktop. I know this isn't typically considered good form.
Not very nice.
But you know what it is?
Not very tidy.
It's a question of one of the defaults with a lot of the browsers that you get on the Mac. When you save a file, straight to the desktop.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Which, you know, it keeps it in view. That's one of the problems. But you know what, you can change that. Apparently I haven't changed it yet.
All right, So let's show us the multi-monitor support on the Mac then.
All right, so,
cool.
well, right now, as you can see, we have this mirrored. I'm going to go into System Preferences from the Apple
Mirrored
menu.
meaning you see it on this laptop screen as well as on
What
here
you're
too.
seeing back here behind me is the same thing I'm seeing on my screen right now.
Right.
So what you want to do is you want to go into Hardware or Displays. And I should point out as well that there's this little display icon at the top of my screen right now that is roughly the same sort of thing. It doesn't have all of the features of the control panel, but you can get to part of it from there. Now with this, you can see I've got two things right now. One that says Color LCD and one that says Samsung, which is the monitor behind us.
Okay.
And
Color LCD being the one on your laptop.
Color LCD is the one on the laptop.
Right.
So when you have multiple displays set up, first of all, you're going to get an arrangement tab here. So this shows you how they're all set up. Right now it's set up to mirror displays. So you'll see that you've got two things that are right on top of each other.
Yeah.
Are you playing Abigail's X-Rated Teen Diary over there already?
No.
What's going on over there? I think your capture is finished.
Oh, it's my capture's finished. That's what it is. And
Da-da-da-da-da. Oh, the miracles of live television. Anyways, so you've got your arrangement here. They're currently mirrored, so there's two screens on top of each other. What I'm going to do is I'm going to uncheck that, and then what happens is we now have two separate displays. And now that tab went over to our screen right here, but it's not on the main screen that I'm working on over here.
it's kind of like the Windows function.
It is roughly the same, and
Do you
they
think
said
they stole it?
you can drag it on and off. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that these guys stole it off of Microsoft. But anyways, there's that's how you do it on the Mac. You go into your display properties, go into the arrangement, and if you're not sure where the other window is, say you've got it plugged in, but things aren't quite working the way they should, you can always go to the main window and choose Gather Windows, and they'll pull them all to the same. You'll notice the Samsung window just pulled over there. And I want to show you one other really quick trick while we're doing this.
Yeah.
On this, and on the original Windows one, I'll capture a little bit here and add this in because this is very important. There's the extend onto this monitor, but you can actually change your primary display. So if you want your start menu and all of the other things, when things pop up automatically onto one monitor, and you want to make primary display, there's a tab or a little checkbox there that says make this monitor my primary display.
Gotcha.
And on the Mac, I didn't think it was possible for the longest time, but there's actually a very simple way to do this. So if you've got a notebook, for example, and you don't want to use this one as your primary display, you want to use a bigger one, like we're doing in this case, there's this little bar here that indicates the menu bar at the top of your screen. You just take that and drag it over to the other display.
Now that's clever.
That's clever, but it took me a long time to figure it out. And I was asking people about this. Did you know this? And they were like, no. So now you see this. It's over here. Hopefully this didn't mess up my my capture. But we gotta. Oop! Now we gotta go over to here and do this. It's when you're working with multiple monitors in different locations, it sometimes is a head-turning experience. So
Gotcha.
there you go.
Cool. All right, well, before we go, there's two more things to do before we end the episode. Number one, I do want to give Hayden Black a shout-out for his new... He's the producer of Goodnight Burbank, and he has a new podcast called Abigail's X-Rated Teen Diary, at Abigail's X-Rated Teen Diary.com.
Yeah, no, that sounds dicey, so you're going to have to explain while I configure this what that is all about.
So Hayden's a funny guy, right? He's a writer in Hollywood, making a living down there, but not exactly, selling tons of, scripts and that sort of thing. And so when this podcasting thing came along, he decided that he was going, to take advantage of the sort of the self-broadcasting phenomenon that is video podcasting. So he started Goodnight Burbank, which is where it's about broadcasters and what they're saying to each other when they're off the air, which is very funny.
I know the way that we used to talk to each other while things were rolling at the lab.
Yeah.
And call for help.
Exactly. So. There's always cockamamie schemes going on and silly dialogue going on when the cameras aren't on us, and that's the case. It's true in the broadcast world. So he decided to follow it up with actually he's got a bunch of things in development, but one of this thing is called the Abigail's X-Rated Teen Diary.com, and it's all about this 13-year-old girl who has a syndrome called Bloomberger syndrome, which is a DNA, a disease that affects your DNA and causes you to look like a middle-aged Englishman. So which is Hayden Black, of course.
That's a very specific disease.
That's right. So Hayden Black plays this 13-year-old girl. Very funny. I highly recommend you check it out. it has me in stitches, and I think he's going to be a huge hit. So.
I can verify that he's a very funny guy.
He's a very funny guy, and we interviewed him during our Podcast Expo coverage, so you may want to go back to the second episode and have a look at that.
Yes.
All right, that's it. And pictures.
We have pictures.
Woo. All right.
All right.
Who is this? Oh my God.
Okay, so our one of our viewers, Ben, from Australia, wrote in and says, "This is Harley. He's my system administrator." So Harley looks like he's a little bit overworked here. He looks like he's ready to fall asleep at the keys.
Yeah, no kidding.
Either that or he's got this really content, yeah, I'm on the laptop. It's warm.
It's working.
I'm enjoying this.
Yeah, exactly. It hasn't crashed in 10 minutes.
Mm-hmm. And he's also got a nice basket of laundry behind him that he can go curl up in afterwards.
Love it. Great. Well, thank you for that. We love your pets. You send pictures in of you and your pets.
Yeah. And this next one is a little bit frightening to me.
Okay.
Frightening not because of our viewer, but because I'm worried about what he's going to do if we ever steer him in the wrong direction. So we're going to have to stay on top. This is Peter. He's from Modesto, California, and he's breaking, it looks like a laptop there, but I think it's probably just a couple of pieces of wood.
Nice work, Peter. Good stuff. Action shot.
Yes, indeed.
From a Labras viewer. Very good. All right, well, keep sending your pictures in.
Oh, we actually have one more today. Okay. We've got lots of photos to get through today.
Okay.
This is, I hope I'm pronouncing this right, Ashish from London, England.
London, England. Very good.
So, once again, we are humbled by the fact that we have viewers from all around the world.
We love that.
So thank you for writing in, Ashish, with your photograph.
He's playing the plasma display. Was it the LCD display demo?
That looks like the LCD display demo.
Awesome, Toronto.
Excellent.
Good stuff. Well, don't forget to send your pictures in to us at
feedback@labrats.tv.
And we'll get you on a future show. If you send in a picture and we haven't shown it yet, have a little bit of patience.
It's coming.
We're getting there. We've got lots to go through.
Yeah, one of the things that is worth noting, just in case you're watching this and wondering, where's my photograph? We're taping these in batches. We go to Toronto, tape a bunch. Come to Vancouver, tape a bunch. Yeah. So we're doing them in batches. So they will be coming.
Good stuff. All right, well, that's it for us today. We hope you enjoyed the show. Thank you for downloading. My name is Andy Walker.
I'm Sean Carruthers.
We'll see you next time. Bye.
Are you ready?
On these guests' computers when they bring in their down.
Okay.
So when you bring in your notebook to be on the show, we want to see what you're doing in the control room so we can switch to your screen.